I suppose we'll run on to the weekend's hurling action then, and there was definitely, I suppose, a lot of big talking points from the weekend's All-Ireland Senior Hurling Championship action. I mean, what a result, obviously, for Clare beating Limerick. Limerick's first defeat since 2019 in the championship. Cork, obviously, your own side, got a victory against Waterford. Kilkenny and Galway being held level. And then obviously results for Wexford and Dublin as well in the Leinster Championship. So we'll start with Limerick versus Clare. Limerick 220, Clare 124. Big result for Clare. First time they've won in the Gaelic rounds in the championship. A game that ebbed and flowed at different moments. Clare always looked like the better side throughout the majority of the 70 minutes. And yeah, first defeat for Limerick since 2019. They'd won 17 championship games in a row. They were closing in on Kilkenny's record of 21 games without a defeat. Obviously, Limerick 17 games without a defeat. And here we go. What a result for the Banner County.
Huge results, and a huge result in terms of the context of the All-Ireland Hurling Championship as well. That Limerick can be beaten. This Limerick team can be beaten. Like in 2020, 21, 22, they looked absolutely unbeatable. And even against Waterford, I know they performed very poorly, and you were thinking, okay, there's a bit of shaky moments, but still Limerick got the job done. And you look at the players on the field, you're thinking, oh, okay, like Clare don't really have much of a hope. But then Clare come out like players possessed. They absolutely gave everything. And in fairness to Clare, they put it out the fire. I think the main difference, Aaron, from this week to last week against Tipperary, they had the presence of David Fitzgerald in midfield. He was missing last week because of a stupid suspension against Cork in the league. And yeah, he comes back this week and he changes the team completely. Him in midfield, like last year, he was up. I think he won an All-Star in the end. Excellent showing from last year. This season, what a performance so far against Limerick. And he definitely has more to come in this championship. And more so for the Munster Championship, more so than the All-Ireland Championship, the context around that. It opens up massively now. You look at the Munster Championship, you could disregard Waterford, they aren't good enough. But you look at the four teams now, Clare, Tipperary, Limerick and Cork. I think two of those could easily get to a Munster final now. It's not just solely Limerick. So that's going to be big, really. So, yeah, it's going to be a big to see how the Munster Championship progresses. But for Clare, what a performance and what a showing for Peter Duggan to get that goal, to swipe away Will O'Donoghue like he did. Brilliant goal from him. And yeah, brilliant performance from Mark Rogers as well. And why I like this Clare team, like Tony Kelly and Shane O'Donnell have been their main players over the last few seasons, more so Tony Kelly. But players like Mark Rogers stepped up the other night, hit a sideline out of nowhere, hits 3 points overall, excellent performance. David Fitzgerald in midfield, as I mentioned. Adam Hogan, what a performance at cornerback for the young lad. I think he's about 19 or 20. What a performance from the young lad. And yeah, brilliant victory for Clare, and that will do the world of good for Brian Lohan, because that Clare team should have beat Limerick last year. They fell short on 2 occasions of beating Limerick, but this season they put they put down a marker and they beat Limerick. So fair play to them.
And I suppose when you look at Clare's team from 1 to 15, as you said, like I think in previous years everyone looked at Tony Kelly and thought, like, if you keep Tony Kelly quiet, if you keep him out of the game, you're halfway to stopping Clare. But as we're seeing now, like they have a wealth of players. Since Peter Duggan's obviously come back from Australia, Aidan McCarthy's back from injury this year. Mark Rogers has struggled with injuries over the last couple of seasons as well, and he's now starting for this Clare team. John Conlon's obviously in there as well. What a performance it was from him, with his brother's wedding on the same day as well, which was absolute madness. But then, and then as you said, David Fitzgerald in midfield. I mean, like Clare from 1 to 15, in terms of their starting 15, probably have one of the best teams in the country. And like there has been a lot of disrespect thrown at Clare going into the championship this year. And whether it's because of the fact they were poor in the league, or whether it was because they were, I suppose, beaten very, very comprehensively against Kilkenny in the semi-finals last year. But when you look at Clare starting 15, like they're a match for anyone in this country.
They are. And when you look at the All-Ireland final, the All-Ireland semi-final was another indicator to people that Clare may not have be a threat this season. When you look at the league, fair enough, but to be honest, like I think the lads from the Wexford Hurling podcast and my podcast during the week were just saying we shouldn't take the league for granted. Like, the league is nothing in hurling, and we've been saying that for weeks now, to be honest with you. But more so the All-Ireland semi-final last year, Clare against Kilkenny. Clare laid down last year, and it was pretty poor from them against Kilkenny. And Kilkenny ran all over them, especially in that first half. And you were thinking, are Clare just a one team really, or one year team, more or less? And history would have suggested that they were, because you looked down through the years, and I studied this last season. 2013 they win the All-Ireland. 2014 they struggled. They lose to Wexford in the qualifiers, and this was a Wexford team that was under the cosh for years. 2018 they reached the All-Ireland semi-finals, but then in 2019 they get knocked out of Munster. And you're thinking, is the same going to happen again? Are Clare going to show their spots once again? But as shown this year, it's far from that. And I think that's a credit to Brian Lohan, that he's got the mentality for these Clare hurlers out of their system, really. And he's saying, we can do 2 years in a row. We're not like any of those teams, or Davy Fitz or any of the management teams. We're a different Clare team, and we're going to go simply for this season. And I think that's a credit to Brian Lohan and his management team for that. Like, I think he actually made a kind of a ballsy move and take out the goalkeeper, Eamon Foodie. Yes, he made errors against Tipperary, but to do that and to bring in Eibhear Quilligan for this game, incredible move it turned out to be, and very, very risky move in general at the start of the game. But Brian Lohan isn't afraid to make these decisions, and like he's saying to the likes of Peter Duggan, and that would indicate to the likes of Peter Duggan, Tony Kelly, Shane O'Donnell, if you perform poorly in one game, you're hooked. And that's the temperament that Clare need to get to the likes of Limerick's level, to Kilkenny's level, to Galway's level. And it's a brilliant performance for Clare, and it's definitely whipped the hurling championship wide open.
Yeah, and I suppose from a Limerick perspective, then obviously, another disappointing performance. I felt they were a lot better in this game, in fairness, than they were at the opening day against Waterford, and I think it was more so down to Clare's brilliance. But when you look at it, like, Limerick could have been sat there with 0 points now. Like, Waterford should have beat them a couple of weeks ago, and obviously in this game as well, like, there was, that late Shamey Flanagan goal probably kept it within touch and distance, but they were probably well beaten at times as well. Like, and it wasn't like Limerick led. Limerick started quite well, but Clare, once they got going, like, the lead never really went away. And you're looking at it and thinking, like, obviously Limerick gave a lot in the league, and they went full tilt, and they've won 3 in a row, as we obviously know, in the All-Ireland Championship. Like, is the evidence maybe suggesting from their performance against Clare and even the performance against Waterford that maybe they're not going to win the All-Ireland as easily as we thought, and maybe they won't even get out of Munster, because their opening 2 performances anyway haven't been at the standard we're used to seeing from Limerick?
You might think that way, but we're still talking about one of the greatest teams of all time. Let's not forget, Aaron. Like, this Limerick team have produced performances that are just out of the world over the last 2 seasons, and you think they have the temperament to change this around. They have 2 games now to change their season. You would imagine they'd beat Cork in the Gaelic grounds. I just don't think Cork are good enough to beat them in Limerick this time round. I think the key for Limerick to get out of Munster, more or less, is to beat Tipperary in Semple Stadium. And I think, like, that could be a risky move, because Tipperary are a different animal this season than they were last season, and that's going to be a difficult assignment for Limerick, definitely. But I still think, with the quality of players they have, with the temperament that's around the dressing room, with John Kiley there and Paul Kinnerk, being excellent coaches, I still think Limerick have enough to go to Munster. They should. Like, you look at the players they have at their disposal, you look at the players there, like Garrett Haverty wasn't playing against Clare. Like, imagine if he was playing. Like, these sorts of things. And I think Limerick still have enough to get out of Munster in general. And in a general sense, like, if they finish third Munster, it won't particularly be a bad thing, because they'll just realise, okay, we have stuff to work on, go into the All-Ireland series. They'll play the Joe McDonough Cup runners-up, which would most likely be a Carlow, a Kerry, or a Laois, and they should absolutely pummel them, and to get into the All-Ireland quarterfinals against Galway, who, to be fair, like, Limerick are a much better team than Galway when you look at the players, the personnel and all that. So I still think Limerick have it in them to have a very good summer, but they have to change their performance levels around even more so. And John Kiley is definitely the manager to do that. They have the players, they have the management, they have the temperament. I think Limerick will be absolutely fine in Munster, but maybe the game against Clare this weekend will set a few doubts in the minds of the players.
Yeah, like I suppose, yeah, like when you think about it, when they lost to Kilkenny, they obviously came back a year later and, went on an incredible run. And, we know the age profile of this Limerick side is perfect. They have great under-20 hurlers making the breakthrough, obviously, at the moment. As you said, one of the best coaches in the game in John Coyley, Paul Kinnerk, obviously there in the background as well. So you'd imagine Limerick will go back to the drawing board, that they'll realise where they went wrong. And look, it also has the potential to be a very good thing for Limerick again. They got a defeat, and it's a defeat that hasn't knocked them out of the championship. It's something they can learn from. They can look at it and think, well, where did we go wrong? And if they do end up playing Clare at some point further on down the line in the championship, whether it's in a Munster final or even beyond that, you would look at it and think, they'll surely take learnings from that and apply it, into going into those games. And as you said, when you look at the wealth of their squad, the players that they have, the mentality of the players as well, which I think is crucial as well to get over big games time and time again. Like, I do agree with you. I think they should be okay, but at the same time, it probably is an eye-opener for the rest of the country. And I'd say the likes of Galway, Cork, obviously Clare themselves, Kilkenny will probably be looking at that result and thinking, okay, maybe we've more of a chance this year than we initially would have thought. Maybe not so much the players, but definitely the supporters anyway.
The supporters, definitely, because Cork fans and Kilkenny fans are probably one of the most hyped up supporters in the whole country, to be honest, when it comes to bigging up their team, to be honest with you. But in terms of the players and the coaches, I think honestly, the only thing before this season even started, I would have thought the only teams that were capable of beating this great Limerick team were Clare, Kilkenny, possibly Galway, maybe Tipperary if they got their house in order. That's the only four, and I would stick to that point. I definitely do. I don't think Cork are good enough to beat Limerick. Simply enough. I think we'll get out to Cork in a minute, but I think our players are way too inconsistent. We're far too reliant on Patrick Horgan. That's just my honest opinion on it. And I don't think that'll be sustainable going on further down the line. Waterford, we know about them, not good enough. Dublin, Wexford, we know, not good enough. Tipperary, I'd be actually interested to see how Tipperary approach the Limerick game in a few weeks' time. I think that game's on May 21st. And that's another thing actually with Limerick. They have 3 more weeks now before the Tip game, their next game. They have a lot of time to, right the wrongs of the Clare game. They have a lot of time to fix, problems that they may have. And they have a lot of time to rest. And I think that'll be very good for the Limerick team before they go into them crunch games against Tip and Cork. So I still think not all is lost for Limerick, but I still think those 4 teams I mentioned are probably the only teams that are capable of beating Limerick this season. And I stick by that point even if we're in May right now.
Yeah, no, absolutely. I would most certainly agree with you there. In fairness, moving on to, as you said, the Cork game was Cork 27 points, Waterford 18 points. Big win for Cork, as you said. Very disappointed with Waterford. Didn't score their first point from play, I think, until around the 25th or 26th minute. They 2 points just on the board at that stage, and that was from place ball. So, very, very comfortable from Cork. I know Waterford brought it back a little bit in the second half, but this was comprehensive stuff, really, from the Rebels, and very disappointing from a Daisha point of view.
Very, very poor from Waterford, yeah. 1 point from play in the first half, not good at all. And it's a difficult one because Davy Fitz, I respect him as a coach, I respect him as a manager. He's done a lot of good work even for the GA in Ireland for his family. He did a lot of good work for Cork last year. Fair play to him. But it just doesn't seem to be gelling with Waterford this year. In terms of league, in terms of championship, they just seem off the pace. And I don't know what it is with Waterford. Their top scorer for play yesterday was Caleb Lyons with 2 points, a wing back. That's their problems, simply their problems. And the worry, just from a Cork point of view for a moment, the worrying thing for Cork, Waterford, as bad as they were yesterday, Waterford had 3 goal chances, and any other day they could have stuck those away. And that's a worrying sign for Cork. I know Cork fans will look at it and think, okay, Munster Championship, we could go for Limerick despite with Clare beating them. It's a big opportunity for us. But I'd be looking more at the fact why we conceded 3 goal chances against a poor Waterford side. It's a bad omen for Cork going down the line. Yeah, it was great that Darragh Fitzgibbon got back into full fitness. Robbie O'Flynn, very good, getting 6 points between them coming back from injury. We didn't think Robbie O'Flynn would be back to full fitness after the Limerick game, so fair play to him. But I'd be looking at the fact we could see 3 goal chances to Waterford, and that's very, very poor. And this is a Waterford team without Tyler Burke as well, who had 4 turnovers in the first 20 minutes against Limerick and was absolutely epitome to the Waterford team in the first 20 minutes of that Limerick game. But he's gone now. Waterford are actually weakened. So, I'm thinking Cork should actually slaughter Waterford with the performance levels there, with Tyler Burke missing, with Austin Gleeson on the bench. You're thinking Cork should ram home. They didn't. They only won by 9 points. Which, to be honest, in terms of hurling, that's not really a hammering, if you know what I mean, Aaron, even though it seemed like a hammering. So that would be worrying from Cork point of view, in my opinion. I wouldn't be positive about the victory, but to be honest, as far as I'm concerned, the game was dead after half-time. Waterford didn't put up a challenge at all, and 1 point from play definitely showed that. With Tyler Burke missing, Waterford were just missing in general all over the field. But good enough win for Cork, but the tougher test will definitely come. Tipperary next week. If Cork can produce a performance there, I'd be more positive then. But I'm not sure they will with that performance against Waterford, conceding 3 goal chances. Imagine conceding goal chances to Jake Morris, Conor Bowe, Jason Ford. We will get punished severely. So that'll be a negative from Cork point of view. From a Waterford point of view, as far as I'm concerned, Aaron, season over, definitely.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, I think 2 defeats, I think is definitely quite heavy at this stage. But from a Cork perspective, I'd be curious to kind of get more of an opinion on where you think Cork are obviously at this year. Obviously got to the league final, the league semi-final, and they're obviously beaten quite comprehensively that day by Kilkenny. And you're looking at it from a Cork perspective, they have plenty of great hurlers, as you said, Patrick Horgan, Darragh Fitzgibbon obviously scoring 4 points, Declan Dalton back in the side, Shane Kingston when he's playing looks like a top class hurler for Cork, but doesn't seem to get a run consistently for whatever reason. So when you're looking at it, you have a lot of great players, but it just seems like you can't quite fit them all together. And I don't know if it's because it's a new management and everything else, but just doesn't seem to be quite clicking for Cork. And maybe it is because it is Pat Ryan's first season, I suppose, after all.
It is, yeah, and I still have confidence about Pat Ryan in future years. I think he's an excellent coach, won 2 under-20s in a row for a reason. Very good manager. I think he's the best manager to nurture young talent through. But in terms of this season, I don't think Cork are good enough simply to get out of Munster. Because, they might be good enough, to beat a Waterford, to beat a Wexford, to beat a Dublin. Fair enough. And that's where Cork are at. But you look at the other teams in Munster, the level they're at the moment. Limerick are one of the best teams I've ever seen. Clare, you look at their performance on Saturday night and you look at the players they have in their starting 15. Tipperary are motoring on superbly this season. Cork won't be able to deal with them, in my honest opinion. And I just think, we move back to the point, you talked about Stephen Cluxton with Dublin footballers and stuff like that, and one of the comments said we are moving on from the 6 in a row team and stuff like that with the Dublin footballers. I'd apply the same kind of logic, even though they aren't that successful, not near as successful. But the Cork hurlers with Patrick Horgan, for instance, he scored 8 points, he scored 2 from play, he scored a brilliant point from the sideline. But let's put it into perspective, Aaron. He's 35 years of age, and he's our main player. And that's not going to be good enough in terms of getting on Munster, in my honest opinion. I just think the players around Horgan are too inconsistent, honestly, to be honest with you. Kingston, excellent player, I think, but he just needs more consistency as a game. Dalton, yes, he scored, I think it was 6 points in the league against Galway. He scored 3 points yesterday. But in the other games, he's anonymous. Why is that? And I just think, yes, they've good, hard-working players. I think Darragh Fitzgibbon, Kieran Joyce, I think are exceptional players, in my honest opinion. But I just think all over the field, I think we've players that are way too inconsistent to not so much to beat Dublin, Wexford, and all them sort of teams, Waterford included, because they're way below our level. But in terms of beating Clare, Tip, Limerick, because that's where we need to, set our priorities right now. Cork aren't good enough to beat those sides, unfortunately. And that's just the honest truth of it, to be honest with you. But I just don't think we're up to the level of those three sides at this particular moment. It will tell the full story once we reach the game against Tipperary on Saturday. But to be honest with you, Aaron, even after that big win over Waterford, I'm not confident before the Tipperary game next Saturday.
Yeah, I think so. Like, and I agree with you as well. Like, I think like when you look at you look at a side like Clare, for example, who maybe in the past were a little bit reliant on Tony Kelly, but now they found a sprinkle of scores from other players. And you look at Kilkenny as well, over Marky Ford and TJ Reid, but now they're finding the likes of Adrian Mullen, Billy Drennan, Owen Cody, a wealth of options from 1 to 15. And I agree with your point there as well. In fairness, just looking at the league table then, so as we can see, Cork are, funnily enough, on top with score difference there with 2 points. Obviously, Tipperary in second with 2 points as well, and Limerick, Clare both on 2 points, and Waterford down near the bottom. I suppose it's wide open as anything, but as you said there, you'd imagine Waterford are probably gone. In fact, they play Tipperary and Clare as well, who are in flying form in the last 2 games. It's going to be tough for them.
Yeah, and as I said previously, Aaron, as far as I'm concerned, season over. Yeah, it's going to be very, very difficult for Waterford to claw back. I just think as soon as Tyler Burke went off with that injury, he's so crucial to the team. I think that was the end of the season. Good luck. I don't think they're good enough without him. Like Austin Gleeson is a good player, Davy Hutchinson, they've smashing players, Patrick Fitzgerald, but then again, Patrick Fitzgerald's 18 or 19? 18, I think it is. And he's one of their main scorers. That's very, very worrying from a Waterford point of view. And as far as I'm concerned, yeah, it's their season over. But season won't vary on for the other 4 teams. Funny enough, Cork are top, but I think honestly we'll finish 4th. I think the next game against Tipperary will tell an awful lot about both teams in general, not just Cork. I think it will tell a whole lot about Tipperary as well. Very, very efficient performance against Clare. A Clare team that will go on to beat Limerick afterwards. But I think the test is to follow up for Tipperary now. And I think that they go on and beat Cork, I think you'd fancy them to get out of Munster in general.
Yeah, I suppose we'll move on to the Leinster Hurling Championship then. It was Kilkenny, 28 points. Galway, 125. And obviously a late point from Declan McLaughlin on his championship debut, levelling the game up when Kilkenny looked home and hosed at one point in the game. Just looking at some scores, Brian Concannon with 1-5 for Galway, Evan Nyland with 7 points, and for Kilkenny, the likes of TJ Reid and Owen Cody doing very well there. TJ Reid with 9 points, Owen Cody with 6. A draw, like probably, I suppose with the way the Leinster Championship is, a result here probably wasn't that consequential really. But again, it proves that like when you look at Kilkenny and Galway in the last couple of seasons, there's only usually been 1-2 points in a couple of draws here and there. And I suppose this one was no different.
Yeah, and it was going to be close from the offset in this game. Like Brian Concannon, it was a bit of a crucial. It was a bit of a, a bit of a controversial goal in many ways, because I looked at the highlights here. Jeez, how many steps did you have to take to get it into the back of the net? They're a good finish from Fairness, and the scoring 1-5 was an excellent return, but that goal shouldn't have been allowed. And we go back to consistency in decision making and all that in games. But look, I think a draw was a fair result. Like you look at Adrian Mullen performed well yesterday. Owen Cody with 6 points. Very good performance. TJ Reid back into full fitness. Like if Billy Drennan gets back up the speed as well. Kilkenny have a lethal forward line. Dark Harcourt's doing well in midfield at the moment. Mikey Butler, very good at corner back. But Galway, they found the fight and they got it out of the bag. Like it looked like for a period of the game you were thinking Galway had something there. They were going to go on and win the game with their lethal forwards. Kilkenny pegged it back, but then Declan McLaughlin, what a debut. What a man to hit that point from that distance out to that under that amount of pressure. Very good point from McLaughlin indeed. And very good showing from Galway in the end to get that result. And I think these two sides, ultimately, I think these two sides will be in the Leinster final, no matter what happens. I think it's a good practice run for both sides, and both sides won't be giving too much away before that. But I think, honestly, in terms of Leinster title, Galway need it more than Kilkenny do, because Galway haven't won one since 2018. It's a long time now for Galway to win one. So I think Henry Sheffield will definitely get his players up, riled up. But it was disappointing not to see as much drama about handshakes in general about this game this time round. But look, we had a very good game to make up for it, so well done to both sides.
Yeah, and I seen Marty Morrissey, I think, a full time. If it was Marty Morrissy that was on commentary, I think he was saying like, "Oh, they already shook hands there, like, you know, it already happened." Just kind of like the camera's obviously trying to zoom in on Henry Shefflin just to see if there was any fuss. But yeah, like I suppose like the main takeaway from a Galway perspective is, as you said, like Brian Concannon did score 1-5. Evan Nyland scored 7 points. Like it does seem like the younger players are starting to make more of an impact now with Galway as opposed to previous seasons. And you were kind of waiting for that for a while, to be honest with you, when you looked at some of the underage success that they'd been having. So like that will give Henry Shefflin, this Galway side, a lot of confidence, because like similar to Cork, like they have a lot of players, a lot of options. And for Henry Shefflin, it's just been about putting the pieces of the jigsaw together. And obviously, you know, replacing the likes of Joe Cannon in the last couple of years has been very difficult. But when you look at some of these younger lads coming in, they're making a big impact now for Galway.
They are, and they've the right manager to nurture that talent in Henry. He's a very good manager. Like when you looked at the way he dealt with the young talent in Ballyhale as well, the likes of Owen Cody and Adrian Mullen developed under his stewardship as well. So I think he's definitely the player to give the Galway players belief as well. So I think Henry Shefflin's the right man to do that. Galway have some very good young talent coming through, but in general terms of the Leinster Championship for these two sides, like where Dublin and Wexford are at, I don't want to be disrespectful, no harm, but I just think Dublin and Wexford are not at the level of Galway and Kilkenny at this particular moment in time. So I think it'll probably be a downer for Galway and Kilkenny go down further into the championship, because you look at the teams in Munster, you look at Clare, Tipperary, Limerick, Cork, if they make it out. I think they'll be more battle-hardened than the likes of Galway and Kilkenny. And that'll be a negative for those type of sides, in my opinion. But look, I think Galway are motoring on nicely under Henry. They have a nice mix of youth and a bit of experience with Dahi Burke and Gareth McInerney in the back line. I think they did excellent in the game I watched against Wexford as well. So they're doing nicely. Galway, Ronan Glenn in midfield. Joseph Cooney's now moved up to the half-back line as well and done very well there, as much as he did in forward positions last season when he nearly got an All-Star. So I think Galway are doing well, and Henry is definitely the right man to steer the ship.
Yeah, just looking at the last two games then in the Leinster Championship, so it was Wexford 130, Antrim 126, and it was Dublin 223, Westmeath 114. Just run through some of the scores in the Wexford-Antrim game. It was Lee Chin who scored 8 points, Rory O'Connor with 7, and Cathal Dunbar scoring a goal and 2 points there as well. And for Antrim, definitely made a close game of it once again, and maybe Antrim are definitely closing the gap on the likes of Dublin and Wexford. When you look at the last two results, Conal Cunning again outstanding, 13 points from him. James McNaughton with 1-1, and a wealth of scores there as well. The likes of Keelan Malloy, Connor Johnston, Niall O'Connor all getting on the score sheet there. And for Dublin, Donald Burke scoring 1-9. Keane Boland again coming up trumps. He scored a goal and 2 points. Alex Considine getting on the score sheet with 2 points as well, which was good to see. Kieran Doyle was Westmeath's top scorer there with 9 points, and Niall Mitchell was the man who grabbed them a goal. And just looking at how that means for the Leinster Hurling Championship table then after two matches, so Kilkenny and Dublin both on 3 points, Galway on 3 points as well, Wexford are on 2 points, Antrim on a single point, and Westmeath on 0. So I suppose any thoughts on either one of those two results? I mean, first of all, another great performance from an Antrim perspective. Wexford seeing it through, and Dublin get their first win of the season, but very much expected, against this Westmeath side.
Yeah, to be honest, Dublin Westmeath was pretty much expected, to be honest with you. I think the most entertaining thing was Joe Fortune and Micheál Donoghue at the end of the game. I don't know what you think about this yourself, Aaron. It was a bit controversial what Micheál Donoghue was saying. Like, from my point of view, was like, what are Westmeath supposed to do? Just sit back from Dublin, not put shoulders or anything like that. And that was what Micheál Donoghue was employing, and I think it was the utter disrespect, to be honest with you. And it was a good win for Dublin, but it was kind of blighted by that, to be honest with you. And very bad comments indeed. But as for the Wexford Antrim game, Antrim excellent performance again. I didn't think they had it in them going down all the way to Wexford Park and putting in that performance. And very, very good performance from the Cohen Cunning, James McNaughton, very good. Neil McManus scoring a few points there as well, I see. So very good performance from them. But Wexford, they saw through. And I suppose that's what you need out of a team to grind out maybe third position, because that's what Wexford are vying for with Dublin at the moment. Unfortunately, they're not going to get close to a Leinster title. So that's what they're going for. And to, vie with Dublin, they need to beat sides like Antrim, and which Dublin failed to do last week. And that's a sign that Wexford are doing well in fairness to them. And it will be interesting now, Wexford against Dublin in Croke Park on Saturday. And a few bits of things, to be honest with you. I think there was a news story like Lee Chin scoring 8 points, excellent performance from Lee Chin, and to do it after the abuse he sustained over the last few weeks was that was brilliant. Him showing up and scoring 8 points like that for the guy that only got a 48-week ban. Disgrace. I mean, he should not go into a hurling game again after that. And that was, what's that example going to set to people that want to play a GA from a younger age? Inclusivity. It's wrong. It really is wrong, and that guy should get banned for life. Simple as. There should be no arguments about that. And another thing that was a disgrace as well, Wexford and Dublin being played in Croke Park. I think Joe Canning mentioned this at the Saturday-Sunday game last night. Why? Just why? Seriously, I honestly don't. I think it actually suits, from your annoyance, I'd say, Aaron, I think it'll suit Wexford more, because they can play over an expansive hurling, and Dublin don't have, the whole fortress that's Parnell Park. And I think it's an utter disgrace, to be honest with you, that it's going to be played in Croke Park. And money talks yet again.
Yeah, it's a strange one, all right, because I don't know, I don't know if there'd be more people in Croke Park than there would be in Parnell Park. Like maybe more Wexford fans will travel, and maybe Wexford fans might fill it out more. But I'd imagine it would be the same sort of Dublin contingency that would be in Parnell Park, that, the same amount that would be in Croke Park. So it is an interesting one, all right. Like, obviously we'll have to see when the game is played. And I'm not too sure what is. Like, we played Westmeath in Parnell Park, now we're playing Wexford in Croke Park. Like, I don't understand why we're switching it around, and we're playing in different stadiums, and we're going to Croke Park and everything else, and all the emphasis is on Dublin to play in Croke Park. Like, I just don't really, it just doesn't really make a huge amount of sense to me, especially with how the Dublin hurlers played. But look, at the same time, the footballers are in Croke Park, so maybe that's the thing. They want to try to be consistent, and it probably doesn't make sense to have the footballers in Croke Park and the hurlers in Parnell Park. But you could argue both should probably be in Parnell Park, in fairness. And to follow up what you said there about the 48-week ban for the person who racially abused Lee Chin, I completely agree as well. Like, I think absolute madness, really, that it is only a 48-week ban. You wonder as well how they even can police it. Do you know what I mean? Like, going into games and club games and everything else, how do you keep control of that? I think that there should have been two options for me. One, ban for life. There should be no way into a Wexford game, no way into a GA game. Or option two, 5-year ban, but with some sort of evidence that you're attending education classes to try and understand, to understand, what you can and can't say clearly, and sort of, I suppose, make yourself, create a bit more awareness there. But I suppose that those would be my opinions on those matters anyway.
Yeah, I think that's an interesting point, actually, the 5-year thing about, getting classes on that. And I think we all need to be educated, to be honest with you, Aaron. It's a changing Ireland, and we need to, respect other people coming in. I think Ikem Ogawaro, the Clare footballer, he's speaking to Ashton O'Reilly, he was speaking to RT Sport as well about he spoke to Claire Byrne on her RT radio show about this as well, and saying the game is for everyone. And this is a guy that he moved he was born in Dublin to Nigerian parents. He moved down to Clare, played football with Clare, and he's been absolutely excellent in that win over Limerick to reach the Munster final. But despite these brilliant performances, for Boyd Lucia as well from Westmeath is another example to this as well. Excellent performance for Westmeath over the last few seasons. But we still have these problems. We still have these problems in GAA games. And surely Super Value sponsoring the All-Ireland Football Championship, and it should be the same in hurling. The game is for everyone. Inclusivity has to be included in the GAA, and it has to be over the next few weeks. You look at Zach Morati scoring that point in Croke Park for Leitrim I think it was the Laurie Mark Cup final a few years ago. I thought that was the point we were thinking, okay, GAA is for everyone here. But clearly, some people have just not moved on from that. And that's the sad thing from that, Aaron. And I think we definitely need to take more classes. There definitely needs to be more social media campaigns on it to, get people educated. That's my opinion on it, really. And I think people need to be educated more. And the game is for everyone. Simply enough.
Absolutely, and I think that's the nail on the coffin there. Like that's the fundamental point. The game is for everyone. And as you said there, like I don't want to go too much into the whole conversation, but I think there's just a lot of people that are very annoyed, very angry, and they're picking out their frustrations in the wrong ways, and they're not understanding, they're not having a full concept of the the words and I suppose things they're coming out with, to be fair. But as you said there, like you hit the full nail on the coffin. The game is for everyone, and I think it has been great to see the likes of Bodu Saya and some other footballers obviously making that sort of step up in the last couple of years. I suppose before we finish up, then, who would you say has been your player of the week? And I suppose moment of the week from the All Ireland Hurling Championship.
Player of the week is obvious because of how he got to the game and how he performed, putting his body on. Player of the week, probably John Conlon is my player of the week because of the way he had the wedding with his brother, and
I think we may have slightly lost you there, but I think I heard player of the week was John Conlon, who obviously, as you said there, like had a bit of a crazy weekend, obviously playing his brother's wedding and everything else, and then going out and beating Limerick, and very much sort of epitomizes everything about the GAA. We've seen some crazy stories in the club championships and everything else that obviously happened last year. Just a few comments here maybe to go through. Denise says shouldn't be able to put on a jersey until you are respectful of people's race, beliefs, and religion. And Padge says thoughts on Dublin's future in hurling. I think it's a very, very interesting point. In fairness, I think Dublin hurling is in a weird sort of space at the moment. Like we're sort of moving out from younger players, or from sort of the older guard around 2013. And obviously some of the younger players that have come into the side as well. But look, with the resources and everything else that we have, you'd expect Dublin hurling to hopefully kick on over the next couple of years. And obviously that game versus Wexford next week is absolutely crucial. You were obviously saying there about player of the week and moment of the week before you got cut off. I think we heard John Conlon was your player of the week. I probably would agree with that, to be fair.
Yeah, I was saying John Conlon, you heard me right there. And moment of the week, I'd probably have to go for Clare beating Limerick. That moment when the Clare players knew they had it at the end before even the free out was taken. I think that was a moment of the week for me. So both awards go to Clare.
Yeah, and I think I agree as well. Like I'd probably also go for David Fitzgerald as well in round midfield. I thought a very, very good game for Clare as well. In fairness, Brian Concannon for Galway was equally impressive. But yeah, we'll go ahead and wrap this up here anyway. Make sure to check out Matthew's show when you get a chance, the GAA Statsman podcast, and obviously check him out on Instagram, Twitter, and all social media channels as well. And for those who did tune into this show, if you could hit the like button and subscribe, be very much appreciated. And if you could share this out to your friends and family, that'd be absolutely fantastic as well. So yeah, Matthew, cheers very much for coming on. And I suppose for anyone who tuned in, thanks very much.
Thanks, Aaron.